Last week, I was talking with a colleague who shared something that frankly broke my heart. She said she was tired, and not the kind of tired of a frustrated mom whose 2-year-old has decided suddenly that she doesn't need sleep. It was a tiredness that she could feel in her congregation, in her body, in her mind, in her heart. I'm told this is common for ministers to get to almost every year around May or June, needing to refuel. But this colleague said 3 years ago, it was April. 2 years ago, it was February. Last year, it was Christmas. And this year, 3 months in, she already needs to recharge. But of course, she can't, because it's November. But she also wasn't sure respite from the congregation would even do much, because that wasn't the source straining her. It was this wounded, divided world we're living in, and we don't get a break from it. And in some ways, the November break that we do have is a reminder that we can't seem to escape the angry disconnectedness that follows us into Thanksgiving. Because for a lot of people, coming together with family isn't purely wonderful and joyous. For many, it's a minefield where people debate the greatest hits of politics and religion and battle it out for who can be the most offensive, who can win zinger of the night, who can showcase their successful career or family, and who can convert a family member to their political perspective. It's like a terrible game of bingo. Thanksgiving is stressful. To me, it never really seemed like the right time to convince family members to be as liberal as I was, because everyone's already braced for a showdown. Sometimes it feels like at family gatherings, it can be a race against a clock where we forget what exactly we're racing for. There's something about Emerson's concept to live above time that draws me in. I think that's why dogs and children are able to experience such pure and unadulterated joy. It's an absolute presence in the immediate, one that I am so attracted to and cannot seem to find for myself. When Mick and I moved to California, we began a Thanksgiving tradition. Every year on Thanksgiving Day, we would drive to a private beach in Southern California that his uncle has access to, have a potluck with family, and go swimming. We started this practice because it is genuinely my dog's favorite place on planet Earth. And for about 4 hours, the look of pure joy and presence on Angie's face is the most wondrous sight to behold. It's the look of a dog so happy that she keeps tripping herself from excitement and never stops smiling. It's impossible not to be myself. It's quite a divergence from my family of origins practice for Thanksgiving. And don't get me wrong, I love and miss them every year I'm away. But our practice was for my mom, aunt, and grandmother to make this incredibly fancy meal while my dad and grandfather took my brother, cousins, and me to the movies. And my adult self obviously abhors that gendered breakdown of work and fun. But finally, we would sit down to a pristine table with glamorous and extraordinary food. And my grandfather would somehow find something wrong with it. My mom would do her level best not to actually explode in that moment. And we would sit down, take a breath, sing the hymn, We Gather Together, a tradition from my dad's family, and promptly begin to debate economic policies and the Middle East. But perhaps what was more bizarre was that this seemed amazingly normal to me. We would yell and then go about our merry way and say, that was lovely. The first time Mick joined us for Thanksgiving, at the end of the night, he sheepishly said, I'm so sorry, Ellie. What can I do? Are you going to be okay? Are they going to be okay? And I was just completely perplexed. I told him, we're not actually mad at each other. We just argue for Thanksgiving. That's our way of being together. We argued and still loved each other fiercely at the end of the night. We were a Rockwell painting compared to people braving family that disowned them for coming out as LGBTQ or non-binary. Or the stories that I've heard from friends navigating racist parents while dating a person of color. I thought our healthy debate and easy release at the end of the night meant that we were just able to be more present. But in hindsight, I don't think we were. Being present would have been staying home from the movies and having all of us make that meal that represented our togetherness. Or deciding we didn't need the 5-star meal and instead prioritizing that actual time together. Or simply saying, thank you, and I love you, and sharing the stories that brought us together. Because in reality, politics was an excuse not to go deeper into the emotions we truly felt. The phone ringing. But the emotions we actually felt were resentment at the disparities, desires to be truly seen, the ever-present wish for curiosity in our relationships over judgment. So we came together, each in our own little cocoons, with our minds fighting a future battle and our hearts responding to a past trauma. This is what we call family systems. And my family is hardly alone in this struggle. Thanksgiving brings out our most of our inner demons because systems, like old habits, die hard. Even the littlest of traumas re-trigger and repeat until genuinely dealt with. Family systems are a lot like church systems, where we can unwittingly be living our past emotional self while planning for a future that does not yet exist. But as a church system, we have a leg up, because part of our covenant to each other is precisely to grow our own awareness of ourselves and of each other, to grow our spiritual self in a way that enables resiliency, and then to grow in fellowship, to a point where we aren't just sitting with family at Thanksgiving, but communing with family. And yet, I am so aware that it can feel impossible to get from the dramatic dinner table to a communion of disparate and divided people. How can we get to that presence, that raw joy, at togetherness that I witness in my dog and my daughter all the time? That place beyond time, which reaches the core of our spiritual connection. Many of you have probably heard of the Serenity Prayer. But for presence in relationships, I like to say the adult children of alcoholics version of it. grant me the serenity to accept the people I cannot change, the courage to change the person I can, and the wisdom to know that person is me. This is what enables presence. And what we control is the decision to listen and acknowledge our emotions, move through them, and own them as our own. A couple months ago, 2 stories came out that were staggering, heartwarming, and reminders of what human grace looks like. One was the unlikely friendship between George W. Bush and Ellen DeGeneres, a conservative Republican former president who had policies that were anti-LGBTQ, and a liberal gay comedian. But she chose to live a principle that kindness includes people that believe differently, even people whose beliefs include the oppression of her existence. And at the same time, a former police officer, Amber Geiger, was being sentenced for the murder of Botham Jean, a black man whose apartment she had broken into. Jean's brother, Brent, asked the judge for the leniency and told her that he forgave her and then hugged her. I don't know if I would have been able to do that. But that is the definition of grace. It wasn't deserved, but it was given anyway. It was a decision to choose love over a cocoon of anger that would have been totally justified. It was a decision to be present, to heal his own inner turmoil and seek her humanity at the same time. And I can't help but wonder how much of an impact we could have if we could be that present with the people we've clashed with the families that bring out the worst in us, that raise our defenses and encourage us to revert to our former selves. Forgiveness and grace are so profoundly personal that I cannot tell you to just go and forgive. What I can say is that outward grace and kindness is an inward grace and kindness too. And the only person we can really be completely attentive to is ourselves. But when we're granting ourselves the grace of forgiveness, we heal our loved ones in the process. We give a gift that they might not deserve, but that lifts them up anyway. And that is the way forward in this moment of absolute divisiveness. It is our path to find the energy that we've lost. Because deciding to be together, to commune together, despite our differences, is a healing ministry, not just to our inner world, but to our outer world too. The only force more powerful than division, hatred, and anger is healing, love, and grace. We can choose to be thankful for presence. We can choose universal love and unity with our family. So let us live today, and let us be as one. Blessed be, and amen.